We are less than 2 weeks away from the next big deadline for Congress members.
Already delayed, widespread federal spending cuts known as the sequester among politicians, scheduled to kick in on the 1st of March. The cuts would take $85 billion out of the government's budget over the next 7 months. Defense Department cuts would be about 13%. Some domestic programs also cut. The White House released a list showing the threatened potential impact, and it includes as many as 13,000 layoffs of teachers. So what's the chance of avoiding the sequel to the fiscal cliff? With Congress on vacation, some of Wisconsin's delegation in our area today. And Fox 11's Bill Miston brings us balanced coverage.
Meeting with business leaders in Green Bay, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin says job creation is a priority, especially when it comes to small business creation in the state. But she says that is in jeopardy.
I fear that if these arbitrary across-the-board cuts go into play on March 1st, several of the things we're talking about during these visits will be in jeopardy.
Baldwin says the public needs Washington to get back to the normal business of the country.
The people, the families, the small businesses and big businesses in this state and this country need to know that there is a regular way of doing things, that we're not going to live from fiscal crisis to fiscal crisis anymore.
They'll go to where the taxes are.
Speaking at a town hall meeting in Plymouth, Congressman Tom Petri says he expects the sequester to happen.
I think it's likely to happen, although there are negotiations going on in the House and Senate as we're speaking.
Petri says increased borrowing, a rising deficit, and lack of financial reforms are problems Washington must address.
We're not playing games. What we're trying to do is to figure out some way, and it can't be done without support from both political parties, the way things are set up in Washington, to get our financial affairs back in order.
Fox 11 contacted Republican Senator Ron Johnson's office. A spokesperson told Fox 11 the senator was traveling and released this statement, saying Senator Johnson supports reducing the deficit and the debt, but he voted against the sequester and was critical of the process that produced it. He pressed for open debate to find deficit reduction with full disclosure before the American people and attacked the backroom secret negotiations that ultimately resulted in the sequester. Fox 11 tried to contact Congressman Reed Ribble for comment on this story. Our calls were not returned. Bill Miston, Fox 11 News.
Petri went on to say that if the cuts do go into effect, he expects the House would take up legislation to try to minimize its immediate effects. How that would be received in the Senate is unclear. Petri says that legislation can give agencies some leeway in spending, allowing them to do the reductions in other areas.